Indigo. Competency-based questions. Why was Rajkumar Shukla persistent in meeting Gandhi? A. He wanted Gandhi to visit Champaran and help the peasants. B. He wanted financial help from Gandhi. C. He wished to spread Gandhi's ideology in Bihar. D. He wanted to write a book about Gandhi's life. Answer: A. He wanted Gandhi to visit Champaran and help the peasants. What was the primary issue faced by the peasants in Champaran? A. Heavy taxation on land. B. Forced indigo cultivation and unfair agreements with landlords. C. Poor irrigation and lack of rainfall. D. Lack of proper schools and hospitals. Answer: B. Forced indigo cultivation and unfair agreements with landlords. What legal tactic did Gandhi use to fight against British landlords in Champaran? A. He filed a case in the International Court of Justice. B. He mobilized thousands of lawyers for a class action lawsuit. C. He refused to leave Champaran despite orders from British authorities. D. He directly negotiated a settlement with the Governor-General. Answer: C. He refused to leave Champaran despite orders from British authorities. How did the British landlords react when Gandhi took up the case of the peasants? A. They tried to bribe him to drop the case. B. They threatened him with imprisonment. C. They fled from Champaran to avoid confrontation. D. They agreed to give full compensation immediately. Answer: B. They threatened him with imprisonment. What was the final outcome of Gandhi's intervention in Champaran? A. The landlords were forced to return all the land to the peasants. B. The British government arrested Gandhi and stopped the movement. C. The landlords agreed to refund 25% of the money taken from peasants. D. The peasants stopped growing indigo completely. Answer: C. The landlords agreed to refund 25% of the money taken from peasants. Why did Gandhi agree to a partial refund, 25%, instead of demanding full compensation? A. He wanted the landlords to voluntarily recognize their defeat. B. He feared a violent uprising by the peasants. C. He thought the British government would cancel the settlement. D. He wanted to maintain good relations with the landlords. Answer: A. He wanted the landlords to voluntarily recognize their defeat. Which of the following best describes Gandhi's approach in Champaran? A. Violent protest and rebellion. B. Legal action and negotiation. C. Political lobbying in British Parliament. D. Economic sanctions against the British. Answer: B. Legal action and negotiation. How did Gandhi's stay in Champaran transform him as a leader? A. He realized that India's independence would require grassroots work. B. He learned that violence was necessary for political change. C. He decided to focus only on legal battles. D. He became disillusioned with Indian peasants. Answer: A. He realized that India's independence would require grassroots work. Which major lesson did Gandhi learn from the Champaran episode? A. The British were invincible in legal matters. B. Political freedom and social reform must go hand in hand. C. Indian peasants were unwilling to fight for their rights. D. Non-violence was ineffective against the British. Answer: B. Political freedom and social reform must go hand in hand. What does the Champaran episode symbolize in India's freedom struggle? A. A major military victory against the British. B. The first successful application of civil disobedience. C. The introduction of modern education in rural areas. D. The beginning of communal tensions in India. Answer: B. The first successful application of civil disobedience. Why was Gandhi's decision to not leave Champaran significant? A. It led to his first arrest in India. B. It forced the British government to take him seriously. C. It convinced the peasants to take violent action. D. It led to the immediate declaration of independence. Answer: B. It forced the British government to take him seriously. What was the main reason British landlords forced indigo cultivation? A. Indigo was essential for the textile industry in Britain. B. Indigo farming increased soil fertility. C. Indian peasants preferred growing indigo. D. It was a British law that peasants had to grow indigo. Answer A. Indigo was essential for the textile industry in Britain. What did Gandhi insist on during his meetings with British officials? A. That peasants should have legal representation. B. That indigo cultivation should be permanently banned. C. That he would not leave Champaran until justice was served. D. That all British landlords should be imprisoned. Answer C. That he would not leave Champaran until justice was served. Which of the following best describes Rajkumar Shukla's role in the story? A. He was a rich landlord who helped Gandhi. B. He was a persistent peasant who brought Gandhi to Champaran. C. He was a British official supporting Gandhi's cause. D. He was a lawyer working for Indian peasants. Answer B. He was a persistent peasant who brought Gandhi to Champaran. What was Gandhi's primary strategy in dealing with the British? A. He encouraged peasants to fight violently. B. He used legal, moral, and non-violent resistance. C. He asked the British government to intervene. D. He refused to engage with British officials. Answer B. He used legal, moral, and non-violent resistance. What impact did the Champaran movement have on Gandhi? A. It convinced him that peasants were weak and could not fight. B. It proved that Indians could resist the British without violence. C. It led him to abandon the freedom movement. D. It forced him to live in England for 5 years. Answer B. It proved that Indians could resist the British without violence. What kind of resistance did Gandhi promote in Champaran? A. Armed rebellion. B. Political negotiations. C. Civil disobedience and moral force. D. International diplomacy. Answer C. Civil disobedience and moral force. What role did the local lawyers play in the Champaran episode? A. They initially hesitated but later supported Gandhi's cause. B. They refused to support the peasants out of fear. C. They sided with the British landlords. D. They left Champaran after Gandhi's arrival. Answer A. They initially hesitated but later supported Gandhi's cause. Why did Gandhi refuse to take help from higher political leaders initially? A. He believed in grassroots activism rather than political lobbying. B. He wanted to test the patience of British officials. C. He did not trust Indian leaders at that time. D. He was afraid of a political conspiracy. Answer A. He believed in grassroots activism rather than political lobbying. What was the British government's reaction to Gandhi's presence in Champaran? A. They ignored him initially but later tried to suppress him. B. They immediately arrested and deported him. C. They requested him to mediate between landlords and peasants. D. They declared Champaran independent from British rule. Answer A. They ignored him initially but later tried to suppress him. How did the Champaran episode affect other freedom movements in India? A. It inspired the adoption of satyagraha in other struggles. B. It caused a division between peasants and political leaders. C. It made Gandhi lose credibility in the Congress. D. It resulted in a failed attempt at rebellion. Answer A. It inspired the adoption of satyagraha in other struggles. Why did the landlords agree to the 25% refund so easily? A. They feared that Gandhi's movement would expose their injustice. B. They were under pressure from the British Parliament. C. They had already planned to stop cultivating indigo. D. They wanted to gain the support of Indian peasants. Answer A. They feared that Gandhi's movement would expose their injustice. What was one major social reform initiated by Gandhi in Champaran? A. He helped establish schools and improve sanitation. B. He banned the practice of forced labor. C. He promoted large-scale industrialization. D. He helped peasants emigrate to England. Answer A. He helped establish schools and improve sanitation. Why did Gandhi consider the Champaran struggle more than just an economic issue? A. He saw it as a moral and social fight for dignity. B. He thought it was a way to increase India's wealth. C. He believed it would help British landlords in the long run. D. He wanted to gain political influence. Answer: A. He saw it as a moral and social fight for dignity.
Which of the following statements best describes the long-term impact of the Champaran movement? A. It marked the beginning of organized peasant movements in India. B. It caused widespread violence against British landlords. C. It ended British rule in India immediately. D. It was a small, localized movement with no national impact. Answer: A. It marked the beginning of organized peasant movements in India. How did the British officials try to intimidate Gandhi in Champaran? A. By serving him an official notice to leave. B. By threatening to cancel his passport. C. By imposing heavy taxes on peasants. D. By filing a case against him in England. Answer: A. By serving him an official notice to leave. Why did Gandhi plead guilty in court? A. He wanted to show moral courage and transparency. B. He was afraid of the British authorities. C. He knew that he had broken British law. D. He wanted to be imprisoned to gain sympathy. Answer: A. He wanted to show moral courage and transparency. Which British official's role became crucial in Gandhi's legal battle? A. The magistrate who postponed his trial. B. The governor of Bihar. C. The British viceroy. D. The landlord of Motihari. Answer: A. The magistrate who postponed his trial. How did the Champaran peasants react to Gandhi's arrest? A. They gathered in large numbers in support of him. B. They refused to cooperate with him. C. They asked the British government to take him away. D. They remained indifferent to his struggle. Answer: A. They gathered in large numbers in support of him. What does the Champaran movement demonstrate about Gandhi's leadership? A. He believed in practical solutions and moral strength. B. He preferred political influence over public service. C. He was reluctant to involve himself in Indian politics. D. He depended entirely on legal battles. Answer: A. He believed in practical solutions and moral strength. Why did Gandhi start an investigation in Champaran? A. To gather evidence of the injustices against peasants. B. To win a legal battle against British officials. C. To collect taxes from British landlords. D. To prove that indigo was harmful to the soil. Answer: A. To gather evidence of the injustices against peasants. What lesson did Gandhi learn from the Champaran episode? A. That mass movements should be peaceful and strategic. B. That peasants were incapable of fighting their own battles. C. That he should leave India and return to South Africa. D. That violent resistance was the only way to gain freedom. Answer: A. That mass movements should be peaceful and strategic. Which of the following best describes the significance of the 25% compensation? A. It established the principle of peasant rights against landlords. B. It financially weakened the British landlords. C. It was a small, symbolic amount with no legal impact. D. It was rejected by Gandhi as being too low. Answer: A. It established the principle of peasant rights against landlords. What was the ultimate outcome of the Champaran movement? A. It ended the British system of forced indigo cultivation. B. It led to immediate independence for India. C. It caused British landlords to increase rent. D. It had no significant impact. Answer: A. It ended the British system of forced indigo cultivation. Why did Gandhi focus on education and health in Champaran after the struggle? A. He believed real freedom included social and economic upliftment. B. He wanted to turn Champaran into an independent state. C. He was asked by the British government to do so. D. He wanted to win the support of landlords. Answer: A. He believed real freedom included social and economic upliftment. What made Rajendra Prasad's lawyers join Gandhi in his movement? A. His selfless dedication and leadership. B. His ability to negotiate with British landlords. C. His promise of high-paying legal jobs. D. His legal connections with British officials. Answer: A. His selfless dedication and leadership. How did Gandhi's stay in Champaran influence the larger freedom movement? A. It became a model for future satyagraha movements. B. It forced the British to leave India immediately. C. It led to Gandhi joining British politics. D. It weakened Gandhi's reputation among Indian leaders. Answer: A. It became a model for future satyagraha movements. What was the British government's biggest concern during the Champaran struggle? A. That Gandhi would inspire more resistance across India. B. That peasants would refuse to grow indigo permanently. C. That British landlords would lose their power. D. That European businesses would be affected. Answer. A. That Gandhi would inspire more resistance across India. Why did many landlords voluntarily return the 25% compensation? A. They feared Gandhi's increasing influence. B. They realized that indigo farming was no longer profitable. C. They wanted to impress British officials. D. They were ordered to do so by the British government. Answer. A. They feared Gandhi's increasing influence. What made the Champaran movement different from earlier protests? A. It was led by peasants instead of politicians. B. It was the first non-violent protest against the British. C. It was supported by the British government. D. It was based purely on economic issues. Answer. A. It was led by peasants instead of politicians. How did Gandhi's movement in Champaran prove the effectiveness of satyagraha? A. The peasants achieved justice without violence. B. The landlords were forced to leave India. C. The British government was overthrown. D. The movement led to the complete abolition of all taxes. Answer. A. The peasants achieved justice without violence. Why did Gandhi refuse to take legal action against the British landlords? A. He believed in solving issues morally rather than legally. B. He did not have enough legal evidence. C. The British courts did not allow Indian lawyers to argue. D. He was afraid of being arrested. Answer. A. He believed in solving issues morally rather than legally. What does the Champaran episode tell us about British rule in India? A. The British system was based on exploitation and coercion. B. The British were fair in their dealings with peasants. C. The British government worked in the best interests of Indians. D. British rule was based on equality and justice. Answer. A. The British system was based on exploitation and coercion. What was the biggest takeaway for Gandhi from the Champaran movement? A. The power of self-reliance and moral courage. B. The need to focus only on elite political movements. C. The importance of violence in achieving justice. D. The idea that peasants were incapable of self-rule. Answer. A. The power of self-reliance and moral courage. What role did Kasturba Gandhi play in Champaran? A. She taught women about hygiene and discipline. B. She led protests against British officials. C. She started an indigo farm in opposition to British landlords. D. She became the first female leader of the movement. Answer. A. She taught women about hygiene and discipline. Why did Rajkumar Shukla insist on taking Gandhiji to Champaran? A. He wanted Gandhiji to settle a land dispute for him. B. He wanted Gandhiji to meet the British landlords. C. He wanted Gandhiji to fight for the rights of the indigo sharecroppers. D. He wanted Gandhiji to start an ashram there. Answer. C. He wanted Gandhiji to fight for the rights of the indigo sharecroppers. What did the British landlords initially do to avoid paying compensation to the peasants? A. They agreed to reduce the rent, but later refused. B. They threatened to call the police. C. They convinced the peasants that they had no legal rights. D. They forged documents to prove their claims. Answer. A. They agreed to reduce the rent, but later refused. How did the success of the Champaran movement influence Indian politics? A. It convinced the British to introduce land reforms. B. It demonstrated that civil disobedience could be an effective weapon. C. It led to the formation of the Indian National Congress. D. It made peasants stop growing indigo. Answer. B. It demonstrated that civil disobedience could be an effective weapon. Why did Gandhiji refuse to seek revenge on the British after the success in Champaran? A. He believed in nonviolence and justice rather than revenge. B. He feared British retaliation. C. He was promised a position in the government. D. He thought the peasants were not ready for another fight. Answer. A. He believed in nonviolence and justice rather than revenge. What was the most significant impact of the Champaran movement? A. The British started paying the farmers higher wages. B. The peasants gained confidence to stand up against injustice. C. Gandhiji became a British official. D. The peasants stopped growing indigo altogether. Answer. B. The peasants gained confidence to stand up against injustice.
Thank you. Prepared by K. Rajendra Prasad.